hottest is on the practice field as a lot of stuff is going on. At the start of practice, you had the Jones boys, Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott not there. We have learned from Todd Archer, Dak is sitting out due to some ankle soreness. And now various members of the Cowboys front office have made their way back to the field. There's a lot of private conversations. And this definitely feels, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, but something is going to happen. A contract, a trade, it's definitely different enough to know that business is being done over there in the hotel.
Business is happening. I think there will be some type of move. Maybe it's a name that is not one that we deem high, to talk about. Maybe it's just, hey, you're adding a defensive tackle or an edge rusher. Maybe it's CeeDee Lamb. But something's going on out there in Oxnard on the practice fields unrelated to Dak Prescott and him missing a non-padded practice due to ankle soreness today.
It seems like the urgency around CeeDee Lamb is the highest. That's the far and away thing that I expect here. I mean, over 2 weeks into training camp now, number one wide receiver not there. Maybe things came to a head last night with the things that Jerry said. We had that audio. We'll play that audio so you can judge for yourself. The context of it has been a point of contention today. I think the biggest thing there is, I think in a lot of ways Jerry has lost his ability to capture a story with his quotes. He's really not paying enough attention to care enough to constantly be thinking about a way to craft the narrative that gives the story extra juice. When he starts talking, a lot of the times it's talking in circles, and he's, intentionally leaving something out there, to try to get the media talking. But it just doesn't have the intended effect anymore. Plus, everybody knows Steve is a more reliable source of info. And Steven was also on the practice fields last night. And while Jerry was doing his thing, saying no urgency about a CeeDee Lamb deal, made Lamb LOL about it, Steve himself said we plan on doing it, re-signing all three of these guys. We want all three players here. We have the best chance of winning a championship by having those players on our roster, but we continue to work very hard on getting this deal done. Zero thought process about CeeDee not being a Dallas Cowboy. Yeah. It's just not consistent with the way they go about doing things. If this was a championship roster or a championship front office, they would genuinely be thinking about trading all three of these guys right now. Maybe they're going to ask for too much. We're not really in a championship window anymore after losing Tyron Smith, Travis Frederick. You could consider Biadasz a part of that. Defensive depth. I mean, we had to let Stephon Gilmore go. We're not contending for a championship. What young players we have now, or what players on our roster might not be in championship mode by the time we get to the next championship window. And I think if you're up against the salary cap so hard and players and agents are negotiating at you so hard, a smart team would go like, well, hey, which one of these guys should we let go? Give us just a little bit of breathing room. We'll restock our draft picks. We'll draft these guys over the next 2 years, and then we'll really hit the ground running with a nice free salary cap situation in 2026. That's what a smart team would do. But again, the Cowboys aren't smart. So the idea of moving on from CeeDee Lamb should have zero chance of passing through your logic barrier.
Man, yesterday when you were talking like the CeeDee trade stuff, which is really one thing you're right. They're not going to do that, and they're going to pay him.
Yeah.
But it did.
They like their TV stars.
Right.
They're not going to let a TV star go to another team.
It started getting me thinking, though, like as much as I love CeeDee, and CeeDee's in the prime of his career, and I think this contract will probably age well compared to other big-name money contracts they give out to receivers.
Because he just continues to get better every year.
And he's young. Like by the time this thing's done, he might be 30 years old. And if you want to let him walk, then fine. But this thing's going to be throughout his 20s in the prime of his career, and he's gotten better every year to that point as well. And he's a hell of a player. He deserves it. He's earned it. But I'm just looking at, like, if you're constructing your roster to win a Super Bowl, obviously you need good receivers. Yeah. But looking at the list of Super Bowl champions here, man, I don't know how many have guys that they've paid top of the market to at the wide receiver position. The Chiefs got away with it last year. Hey, look, and if you want to say the Chiefs are an outlier because they got Pat Mahomes, fine, I'm not going to fight you. And Travis Kelce's a tight end. He's their best wide receiver. But if you go through the list here, I mean, man, the Patriots never had a top receiver. Right? The Eagles, when they upset Alshon Jeffrey, was he their top receiver? Didn't have one. Green Bay, when they won the Super Bowl, they had what? Greg Jennings, Donald Driver. I don't think either of them were paid at the top of the market. Baltimore sure as hell didn't. Seattle sure as hell didn't. Denver, I mean, yeah, I guess Demaryius Thomas maybe, but I don't know that the wide receiver's ever been the player to put any of these teams over the top when you're talking about building a Super Bowl champion. I mean, the only outlier would be maybe you look at the Colts in 2006 with Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne, but it even took a lot for them to get there, right? Their defense had to step up and finally play well. So it's not saying, hey, you don't need good receivers, but we talk a lot about the running back, and that's not a position that's worth paying. I think Miami screwed themselves. I don't think Miami's got a chance now. You've paid Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. They're both making what, top 8 money? Maybe more. Maybe they're top 6 right now. You know, it is questionable. Is that the right position to throw $35 million top of the market money to? And that's not something I was really considering. But when you go down the rabbit hole and you kind of look at, okay, what are these teams doing to build a champion? Maybe the Rams with Cooper Kupp. Maybe that's the one team you can point to and say, hey, they paid a wide receiver and that they won a Super Bowl out of that.
You know, obviously acquiring talent, your scouts, your draft process is the most important thing for building a Super Bowl team. But after that, it's salary cap management. And what kind of an edge are you getting there? Are you getting an edge by saying no, like Bill Belichick did to the guys who were trying to reset market dollars, even though they weren't the absolute best player at the position? Or are you getting it by borrowing money from the future and using your credit card to buy now?
Right.
I think if you're using both of those along with drafting and developing quite well, then, you know, you're giving yourself and your organization a tremendous advantage. We've been looking at that for years, you know, and even when you do find an elite receiver on a Super Bowl team, it's almost always in a year where they hadn't hit the fatty boomba yet, or their compensation was structured in a way where it wasn't killing their cap that year. Because you could look at Demaryius Thomas with the Broncos as well.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned Cooper Kupp, so I'm like, yeah, let me go look and see what Cooper Kupp was doing, and he hadn't gotten the big money deal.
Okay, there you go.
When they had won the Super Bowl.
And we're getting good texts like Devontae Adams. Packers say no, thank you. And look where the Packers are now. They're back to contending. They could win the NFC this year. Chiefs said bye-bye Tyreek Hill. Right, and I guess the Chiefs might not be a good example for any of this stuff because of what they've got.
How much of an outlier they are, right?
But Randy Moss, arguably best receiver in NFL history, best receiving season. They didn't win the Super Bowl in 2007 with the Patriots. He doesn't have a Super Bowl ring.
You absolutely need a great receiving core. You need a great passing game. What do you think about having that superstar at the top of your group, Chief?
I mean, I'm sitting here nodding my head along to Walchuk here as he talks about it. Like, I'm all about, when discussing things, putting it into how does it help you win a Super Bowl? Because, like, what else are we doing here? When we're discussing the Cowboys, it's like you're envisioning something to try and get to a Super Bowl. So when I don't want to pay Dak all the money in the world as a very good quarterback, paying him elite money, I don't want to do that because I don't think history tells you that's how you win a Super Bowl, paying elite money to good quarterbacks. And you're laying out a pretty good situation here when it comes to the wide receivers over the years and who's getting all the money, who's the top five paid wide receivers in the NFL getting Super Bowl victories. I don't know. I mean, you even think about like Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs goes to Buffalo, and even that wasn't enough to put them over the top. Would they have been better off using whatever it is they gave to Stephon Diggs to shore up the roster in a couple of other ways? And could the Bills have been more fortified to try and go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs over the last couple of years? I don't know, but you're right. You don't see the big dog, high-paid. It's not that good receivers don't win Super Bowls. Good receivers win Super Bowls all the time.
Right.
But they're not usually being paid like the best in the sport when they win it.
100%. And a lot of texts coming in, oh, you don't want to pay the running back, you don't want to pay the wide receiver. And I knew that was coming. You know who you pay? You pay your offense and your defensive lineman. You pay your quarterback if you had one of those, right? That's what's winning games in the trenches. You want to pay a corner? Pay a corner. There's not a lot of good ones out there. I think now the special linebackers, the Fred Warners of the world, that's few and far between. If you get one of those elite guys, you pay one of those. You pay an edge rusher like a Micah Parsons. Those are positions that it's proven if you're solidified there, you're winning championships.
Pardon me, what the Patriots and now the Chiefs have done is they paid positions that caught the ball but weren't true wide receivers. So the top of that market is half of the wide receiver to get a tight end or a slot receiver. You know, we're going to take Edelman and Welker and Gronk. These guys are going to catch about as many as a number one wide receiver, but will make half the amount of money because of the different position that they play. And I think, again, that's the salary cap-onomics that the absolute elite teams that you use, and I just don't think the Cowboys are going to have a new idea. It would require caring about winning so much and obsessing over it so much. But they are business partners more than they are a team trying to come together with their players. And I think that's a massive difference. On top of that, CeeDee Lamb is the best 88 ever. Maybe not the biggest celebrity 88 ever, but he's awesome. And they gave him that 88 jersey. They co-branded him with the Cowboys in history that day they made him 88. They ain't walking away from that. You know how much Jerry loves having one of those to continue the legacy, the marketability, the story, the lore of this organization. And again, all those things in the leader of your organization are more important than winning a championship. So once again, we get a massive example of it. I don't think it's a big mistake to sign CeeDee Lamb or anything like that. I generally, you need great players.
Right.
You
do.
But when you are post-championship window, that's when every smart team in every sport says, why are we going to continue to pay these guys and kill our salary cap for the next 2 years when we don't really have a chance to win? Who should we trade for draft picks that if we hit on those is going to give us nearly an insurmountable advantage when we get like the Chiefs had? How do the Chiefs win without Tyreek Hill? All of the draft picks that they acquired in those 2 drafts, giving them the depth and the quality elsewhere on the roster. And we can only keep our fingers crossed that at some point the Cowboys will have a visionary leader that can make a decision like that. Tyler Guyton might not play Sunday with his illness. If you missed the story from Crosstalk, Dak Prescott is missing practice today due to ankle soreness. He was working awful hard in the offseason. He got a little tweaked there, wore the boot. I don't know if he's in a boot today, Chief.
Well, I guess you guys were right, man. Something was up in the air because Calvin Watkins is just saying that the Cowboys are finalizing trading Nahshon Wright, cornerback, to Minnesota. So that may be what was holding up.
So that something was going
some
down.
Of the front office folks.
That's a lot of hullabaloo for Nahshon Wright.
Yeah, well, I think when you combine the fact, okay, we're trying to pull off a trade, and then we're also trying to evaluate our quarterback not showing up to practice, and we know this is going to cause something. Let's all get together to make sure we're dialed on what our report is here on Dak, as he's not going to be practicing today. So maybe that combination of things held stuff up. I don't know, but I think what this does tell you, is that Kalen Carson, the rookie.
Damn
my
right.
gosh, and I think I saw him having an interception, a pick 6 yesterday in the joint practice.
I know he had a pick.
I mean, he's been fantastic. I know a voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, took issue, and I think that he didn't read the tweet very well that I put out yesterday. But that, to me, is your future. Like, Jordan Lewis, badass, having a great camp, but he's on a 1-year deal. Ideally, Diggs, Carson, outside corners. You can kick Bland back inside. I know Deron Bland talked to us, and his most natural spot is on the outside. But that dude was special, playing inside the slot in his rookie season. And that might be the most important spot when it comes to DB play with how they're moving the top wide receiver into the slot now.
Oh, my gosh, yes, 100%. I have more on this, but we got to get back to whatever you just said. He just sprinkled in there. Brad Sham misread his tweet, and I'm assuming fired back at you.
He always does.
That's his move.
Always does.
It's his move, but he has that right. Okay, so forget what I said, because they're just doing a player swap, a corner swap. It's Nahshon Wright for Vikings corner Andrew Booth.
Okay.
So there you go.
I believe Andrew Booth from Clemson.
3-4 years back.
Yeah, maybe Zimmer's familiar with this guy, Andrew Booth. That would make some sense. There we go. Now we're connecting dots. We got to get back to this Brad Sham thing.
Yeah, how would you recommend bully deals with this? I would put an eye roll emoji there.
I mean, I already replied and said I did say future in quotes, which
Nice.
if you read it, that's it. Jordan Lewis is on a 1-year deal, Brad. I don't know if he's here next year, buddy.
Why, did you just buddy Brad Sham?
No, clearly you meant week 2. Get your stuff together, Wolchuk.
I love you, Brad. You're a legend. But gosh dang it, you're looking for fights with all of us.
Wolchuk has met his hero,
I think he gave up trying to fight me. Okay, Rangers are rained
Wait, how
out.
did you used to handle it?
I would
you completely just act like it didn't happen, try to avoid the confrontation? Okay, so you were just super respectful.
It wouldn't happen on X,
But like on the pregame
post-game
show or postgame show.
Yeah.
I mean,
because he'll get you. I mean,
you getting ready for pregame, Eric? I mean, he'll hear something 2 hours prior and bring it back up to you in the pregame.
I would just ask one question, put my headset down, and run. You guys do the rest.
Dude, it's so funny you say that. I don't know what it was yesterday, something dawned on me about Sunday. We have our first pregame show. And so I'm getting in the car and I'm just driving. I got the family in the car. And I guess my wife could tell I was really thinking. She's like, why are you thinking so hard right now? I was like, honestly, I just remembered we got the pregame show and stuff. And I was like, I know I'm going to have to interview Brad Sham. I'm not joking with you. I said that.
I need to make sure I phrase every word perfectly.
Every syllable of my question or two to Brad is not one that he is going to find something wrong with.